So let's get started on those peanut butter love cups first. The first thing that you're going to want to do is grab some sort of bowl and put it over a pot of steaming water. To that, you're going to want to add about a half cup of chocolate chips and about a quarter cup of salted butter. You just want to work these two ingredients together over the heat until they've melted and become one. The steam will heat the dish that you're working in, and slowly and gently melt the chocolate and the butter together. But first of all, you're going to want to make sure they're not sticking to your spoon and that they have full contact with the bottom of the bowl. You can also do this in a traditional double boiler. I'm just demonstrating how you can duplicate that process using simple things that you find around a regular kitchen. So while the heat works on that, I'm going to pop back over here and start working on the egg. The egg is a very important element to this particular recipe as there's no leavening. So you're depending entirely on the egg and its ability to poof up a pastry to make this sucker rise. So take your egg and whisk it together very well. You want to almost double it in volume. You can see how it's pouring off in one stream, slightly broken. The egg is nearly doubled in volume. That's just perfect. Let's turn our attention back to the chocolate. Oh, that's very nice right there. Got the chocolate all liquefied, and the butter's going to come right along with it. So I'm going to take it off the heat and allow the residual heat that is stored in the bowl to do the rest of the melting work. Stir it together until I have an almost smooth consistency. At that point, I'm going to need to add about a third cup of lightly packed brown sugar. Allow it to stir in and dissolve and get all good and happy in there with the chocolate and the butter. Mix it until there's no more lumps. And allow it to cool down before you proceed to the next step. So there's two more components to this that you can work on while you wait for that chocolate mix to cool down. There's the peanut butter filling. You can't forget that. You're gonna need about 1/8 of a cup of peanut butter and about a tablespoon of more brown sugar. And add just a couple little scoops of the egg that you whipped up. It's going to help to stretch out the peanut butter, make it a little bit more workable. And just blend all this goodness together. This is going to form the filling that goes in the peanut butter love cups. Again, blend it until you have a smooth consistency. That'll do the trick right there. And now let's start working with the puff pastry. Of course, puff pastry, as you might know, is something that I just love to work with. It's what I call a kitchen genie because it just makes a simple, elegant dessert with minimal effort. So I just sprinkled a little flour on the surface of the puff pastry. Now I'm peeling this parchment paper off the back of it. There we go. And I'm going to need to sprinkle a little more flour in order to prevent it from sticking. The main thing that I need to do right now is just stretch it out and make it a consistent size and thickness. So I'm going to use my rolling pin and a nice light touch, maybe a little more flour because this one seems to be kind of sticky and grabby. And just work it out just a little bit. There we go, that'll do the trick right there. And now I'm going to take a nice large cookie cutter here and I'm going to cut out about 6 little crusts. You'll note that I'm rocking it back and forth quite a bit, and that is because the puff pastry has a tendency to not cut well. But if you just add a little rocking motion to it, it works fantastic. Now, of course, puff pastry can always be found in your local grocery store in the freezer section, but I would also encourage you to look around at local bakeries. You might be surprised. Some of them may have a delicious puff pastry that they sell. And that is where I found this one. It was at a local bakery. And it's so delicious. Now I'm going to take these cute little crusts and work them into my muffin tin. Kind of stretch them and ease them in there. Depending on the size of your muffin tin, you're going to want to choose your cutter carefully so that your crust can fill it up as best as possible. Recognizing that, of course, if it's not perfect, that's fine. It's just going to add more character and deliciousness to each little peanut butter love cup. And one more to go. I'm not going to worry too much about the edges at this moment because I'm going to add fillings to these, which is going to add weight and allow me to stretch them to the shape that I like. Now, as far as the scraps go, don't despair because they still have life. You can squeeze them together, roll them out again, sprinkle a little cinnamon sugar on them, twist them up, and you've got some little twisty, yummy, cinnamony things. Or you can save them and make a really big batch of something yummy with all the scraps that you've accumulated later. So let's finish off the brownie batter next. So it's cooled down to a reasonable level now. So the next thing to add in is going to be the egg. Get that all in there, scrape out the bowl, get all the good stuff out of the bowl into the brownie batter. Fold it in. And just when you start to see it sort of marble together, you can go ahead and add in your ½ cup of all-purpose flour. And for this recipe, it doesn't really matter whether it's sifted or not. Fold these gently together. You want to fold gently because you want to keep those eggs nice and puffy in there. You can see with each pass of the spoon or spatula that it's going to mix together. Stop mixing once you see all the flour disappear into the batter. Right about there. And now you want to take a little scoop. I'm not quite filling this little scoop that I have right here. I'm going to plop most of it in there. Right on top of the puff pastry. Now I'm going to take this opportunity to sort of stretch the puff pastry up the walls of the muffin tins and perfect the presentation of the crusts a little bit. Because with the weight of the brownie in there, I'm going to get a much better result than if I had tried to do this before I added any filling. Now with that step done, we can go ahead and add in the delicious peanut butter insides. Now it really seems to be pretty easy just to do this with your fingers. Reach in there, grab a little bit of peanut butter, wedge it into the chocolate, and there you go. Just nestle it in there, make it all nice and happy. You know peanut butter and chocolate are good friends. Try to make sure that the brownie batter, the chocolate, completely encompasses the peanut butter. And then simply add a little bit more of the brownie batter on top to cover up the peanut butter. So it's like a little surprise when your sweetie bites into it. It doesn't take much to do this step. nice little dose. These are gonna taste so good. Homemade peanut butter love cups. And one little baker's tip, you'll note that I have some unfilled muffin wells, so I'm just gonna add a little water to that because that's gonna help prevent my pan from warping. And goodness knows that I don't want a warped pan, neither do you. So I have my oven preset to 350 degrees, and I'm gonna bake these for about 35 minutes. The puff pastry needs quite a bit of time to come into its own. And in addition, the bottom of the brownies will need a little bit of time to finish up and set. They're gonna be amazing. Well, let's see if these little peanut butter love cups are ready to go. They sure smell good. They sure look good. But the best test to know whether your peanut butter love cups are done is to take a toothpick and stick it all the way down into the bottom. And what you want to see is just some crumbs, maybe, but absolutely no shiny goopy stuff in the middle. These are done. They'll be happy to cool there in the pan for a little bit.